last time on Oz Hour?
Okay, last time on Oz Hour, they were getting attacked by the Wheelers, but TikTok was like, actually, they're like not that scary, so we can just beat them up and move on with our day and be done. And so that's what they did, and they moved on, and they went to the capital of Ev, which is no longer Oz. We're not there. And they met this princess, Langwidere, and she had all these weird, creepy little heads that she would wear. And she was like, ha, 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 yeah, I love these heads. Dorothy, give me your head. And then Dorothy was like, And then she got in trouble, got taken to a dungeon. And then TikTok was like, no, not my bitch, and started throwing hands at everybody. But then he was like, and broke down and then wasn't able to. And then she was in a dungeon, Dorothy was. And then she was like, oh, look across the way. That's Ozma and all my friends that I know and everything. And so then that happened, and then they were there, and now we're here. Thank you.
Hi there, and welcome to Oz Hour, the only place where you can hear everything you never knew about the wonderful and strange land of Oz.
That's right. With the help of some alcohol, we will be discussing each of the 14 books in L. Frank Baum's Wizard of Oz series.
Today, we will be continuing with Book 3, Ozma of Oz, covering chapters 8 through 11.
We're your hosts, Blake Stone
And Wyatt Swingham.
and joining us is our resident Oz initiate, Hannah Aguirre.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So Hannah just played last time on, where she recapped what happened last time on Oz Hour. Hannah, it took you about a minute or two to cover it, and honestly, you didn't really miss anything, except for what I would say is important to note, which is that Dorothy doesn't know who Ozma is, which for storytelling purposes, I think is super exciting. And before we started recording, Wyatt went ahead and whipped us up some cocktails as usual. So tell us about Roquat on the Rocks.
Well, tonight we will be drinking Roquat on the Rocks, which is basically just a Negroni. But I also dehydrated some orange, so that just gives it a little color accent for the folks at home.
Yummy.
But yeah, I actually have no idea what a Negroni tastes like, so
I don't think I do either.
we'll find
I don't
out.
like it.
It's
Let's
gin.
taste. I kind of like it. It kind of tastes like Malort.
It's bitter. Chapter 8. The Hungry Tiger.
Oh my god. I'm sorry.
Who's that?
So we get to have like this reunion moment, you know, because our friends are here to rescue Dorothy from her imprisonment. So, you know, she's hugging on the Scarecrow, who she like smushes into, and she hugs the Tin Woodman, who like hugs her so gently that he doesn't hurt her. So a little bit of body horror right off the bat, if you think about it.
Yeah, it's kind of a interest. I don't know. Like, she hasn't seen them in an unknown amount of time. And I mean, well, it's probably been like a year. I don't know.
It's been, yeah, I mean, this is book 3, and we guessed, I think in the previous episode, we guessed it's been like 8-9 months tops or something.
Okay. Enough time to have a baby. That makes sense. Well, either way, though, yeah, she's hugging them, and then she's like, oh, like here, and she pulls her key, TikTok's key, out of her pocket. She winds him up for his motion so she can introduce him and he can bow, and he bows. And she's like, oh, he's been so helpful since I got here. And all of a sudden, Nick Chopper and the Scarecrow are shaking his hand, and they're just like, oh, we didn't know you were useful. Oh, thank you for helping Dorothy. And I'm like, you guys were just like ripping the shit out of him at the end of the last chapter.
I want to shake your hand.
It was, yeah, very that energy. I couldn't quite tell if they were being serious, but pretty much that's all that happened. They were like, okay, that's our reconciliation.
Yeah, so after that little reunion and TikTok's introduction, Dorothy's like, hey, where's Bellina? And the Scarecrow's like, I don't know. Who's Bellina?
And Dorothy explains, oh, that's the chicken. Or like this chicken I found. She explains who she is. And Langwidere is like, I fried her up and ate her this morning.
No, that's a goddamn lie. She did it to another chicken.
No, she didn't. She didn't kill her.
Oh.
She said, what she actually says is, oh, she's in the hen house in the backyard.
You can't do this shit to me because I've been a little emotional and I have tears.
Your eyes are
They
wet.
are. They're
They're
building
sparkling.
up. Okay. That got a little
it was
too
a
close.
meaner joke than I expected, but for the tears, it was worth it.
I guess so. We love the drama here.
Well, But yeah, so she says, oh, she's in the backyard.
Yeah,
of the
drawing room is
castle.
no place for hens, you know?
Yeah.
So
Very lame
Dorothy like runs out to the chicken house to get Belina, but on the way she sees the Cowardly Lion because he's still hitched to the chariot. He pulled Ozma
Oh,
in.
that's who. Okay,
And
okay.
so the lion and
Forgot about
the
that.
tiger are both still hitched to the chariot, and Dorothy's like, "Oh my god, my friend!"
Yeah. And also, this doesn't really matter at all, but
Oh, I know what you're gonna say, and it does.
the lion has a blue bow
Yes.
on his hair between his little ears, and then the tiger has a red bow on his tail right before the tuft at the end.
Which tigers do not have.
That is
Lions
not.
have
Yeah,
that.
I looked that. Did you look it
Oh,
up? Because
yeah,
I did
you're
too.
right,
I was
actually.
like, maybe I'm missing something, and then I looked at a bunch of pictures of like the end of a lion's tail. It doesn't look like a cartoon. Like it just makes so much more sense.
Oz lion or
It must be an
tiger,
Oz tiger, and it's hungry.
and that's the only difference. It's like, oh, we're gonna put this.
Oh,
little thing
so
at the
do
end
we
of the
think
table
his
or
tuft
tail.
is like orange and black, or do we think his tuft is like white? I'm seeing white.
Oh, I was seeing orange and black, but I like that you were seeing white.
Just like a cute little like pom pom at the end. I don't know.
I guess that kind of matches like a tiger's face too.
Yeah.
Like they have kind of like the face fur. Well, anyway, she hugs the lion, and he's next to the tiger. And
Yeah, they have a sweet moment. It's been a while.
oh, it also made me realize we had a whole other book with like the Tin Woodman and the lion, the
No.
Tin Woodman and the Scarecrow, but the lion wasn't there at all.
Yeah,
and
we-
so I was like, man, when was the last
That's
time we saw
true,
him?
yeah.
But just not at all. He wasn't
Yeah.
even mentioned.
The lion
he was even a
minded
thing.
he
Yeah.
minded his own goddamn business last episode. He was like,
Yeah.
I am actually a king of a place.
It's like
and
I know that there's like a civil war going on, but I'm really
Yeah.
not going to include myself in that.
My
because I'm
dear
better.
friends.
bigger
yeah.
fish to fry.
Go off.
But basically, though, he's just like, well, like I'm like Dorothy asked him how he is. And he's like, I'm as cowardly as ever. Like, I know that it looked like I was really brave, like, you know, from the outside, but like, I'm just still a coward.
Has
Yeah,
it been a rough week?
I really thought we were
Right.
past this.
You'd
Yeah.
think.
But the Cowardly Lion introduces Dorothy to his friend, the Hungry Tiger, to which she responds, "Oh, are you hungry?"
He's starving. He's like, I'm so
Starving.
hungry.
Aw.
And she's like, why don't you just eat? And he's like, well, like I try eating, but I just have such a huge hunger that I end up like getting hungry again right after. So like, it's not worth it to
Yeah.
me to like kill all these things.
He
when
has
I'm
to
still gonna be
kill.
hungry.
He has to kill chipmunks and fat babies for his meals.
Oh
They
yeah,
spelled chipmunks with an O, which I just thought was cute.
I didn't actually see that. I saw the fat babies.
Okay, like fat human babies
Yeah,
that he
I
just
think
steals
so.
from
well,
people.
he says he would love to eat fat babies, but if he did, he would get hungry, so they'd be sacrificed in vain. So he just starves, basically.
but he knows he likes fat babies somehow.
I'm sure he has eaten
Yeah,
them.
but-
This is an interesting character that we're gonna have a lot to talk about over the
Yeah,
next. Well,
but-
I guess
part
I
of the
don't really know anything about the lion. I'm beginning to learn.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the lion ate and killed a deer, or killed and ate a deer in the forest in book 1, and he offered to do the same for Dorothy.
But do not forget, this is the Hungry Tiger, and he will remain hungry because he's taken a vow of, I don't know, fasting, I
Yeah.
guess. Like, he doesn't eat because he's like, I will never eat enough to satiate my hunger, and I have to kill to eat. Therefore,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it. Which, like,
He
good
does eat
for
like eggs
him.
and stuff though. Like
Yeah.
he eats, but just like not as much as he wants, or the things that he wants.
So, like, out of shame, he left the forest with the Cowardly Lion, and so now they're with Ozma in Ev.
Dorothy thinks that it's a good thing that he's not eating babies, and he's like, well, it makes me a very bad tiger, so I had to flee the forest in shame. And yeah, that's how he met the lion, or when he came to come and find the lion, and then go with him to Oz.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And Dorothy's like, "Okay, nice talking to you," and heads back on her way to find the hen house to get Belina.
Get her girl.
And she hears loud cackling sounds, and she follows them to the hen house. And when she gets there, all the chickens and roosters are huddled in a corner.
There's a cockfight going on.
There's a cockfight going on.
No.
She sees a ball of feathers just rolling about.
This like prison for.
Literally,
Pretty much. It's like, okay, you know that HBO show Oz? Like,
Yes!
this is that.
I don't know the reference, but I believe you both. But Belina is rolling around and with a rooster. Like they're going at it. And like as they're rolling around,
Damn.
finally Belina ends up on top. He's like on his stomach on the ground, and she's like standing up above him, like roosting on him. And she's like panting and huffing.
Oh my
And
god.
My parents have chickens and a rooster, and the roosters just have sex all day with the hens. Like they just like jump on them and like tear them the fuck up.
They're like Zeus.
Pretty
Oh
much,
my
yeah, they are.
God.
It doesn't matter. My parents have some chickens that they've had to like help because the rooster's so aggressive. But I'm like,
Jeez.
okay,
Ugh.
Belina was not taking that shit, and then she ends
No.
up like on top of him, like, and he's like, it was just such an interesting role reversal.
Wow. She's the alpha now.
Yeah, and Dorothy, like
She's like, bitch, I'm Bill.
I'm Bill, motherfucker.
literally. Oh my god. Well, she's proud of her heritage.
Belina
Yes.
just like Dorothy's standing in the open doorway. Belina just like looks at all the other chickens and just like struts out of there. And like and Dorothy's like, "Were you fighting? What are you doing, you savage little thing?" And Bellini's like, basically, he said he's top dog. That's not true. I'm top dog.
And
Like,
she was like, he says
try
he
again.
runs his hen house. Honey.
Oh
I
my god.
don't go for that.
We should really put Belina in Bad Girls Club because I think she would run the house.
and honestly, like Belina has lost a bunch of feathers. One of her eyes has nearly been plucked out.
Oh
Like
my
her comb is
God.
bleeding.
Yeah, literally.
Also that.
It says she was missing almost all of her feathers.
Well, you
And
know,
I'm like,
after
oh
a
my
moment
God.
like that, you don't need to protect yourself anymore because you showed everyone who's
It's
No,
top
true.
she
dog.
basically
She reset the
literally
pecking
says
order.
she literally says like you should have seen the other guy.
That's what I have in my notes. Yeah.
Oh
She was like,
my god!
You should have seen the
Belina's
rooster.
badass.
But Belina does tell us, though, to quote, "But I was raised in the United States, and I won't allow any one-horse chicken of the land of Ev to run over me and put on airs. As long as I can lift a claw in self-defense, that's it." But
I mean,
Belina
go
said,
on.
"Don't tread on me, motherfucker."
Yeah.
Damn.
And Dorothy said, "Very well, Belina. We won't talk about it anymore." That's
Yeah.
actually what she
She's like,
said.
yes,
And yeah,
ma'am.
she said what we've all had to say to a God-fearing American once or twice.
But yeah, they get back to the lion and the tiger, and they introduce Belina. And the lion reflects, "Wow, like you just got in a fight. I'm a coward, but you're not like me." I'm like, okay, you're really beating a dead horse, man.
Yeah.
Like we get it.
Yeah, tell her what the tiger says.
The tiger says that Belina looks delicious, and that he wishes he could crunch her between his jaws. But he won't.
Don't worry, I won't.
Yeah, he says it isn't worth it to kill her because it would take so many of her to feed to like fill him up.
Oh.
And she's just like, "Thank you."
So he's the new fucking Jack Pumpkinhead because all he's gonna talk about is, "Oh, I just can't
Oh,
eat
yeah.
enough because it'll never be enough."
Someone to complain all the
I
time.
feel like we need a sound effect for like when Hannah finds a character that she hates. We need like the Drag Race like that
Oh,
sound.
yeah.
Because I hate.
the rattlesnake.
I will hate.
Yeah, you will. Trust me.
So they go back into the palace and they go into the drawing room, and the Tin Woodman, Scarecrow, TikTok, Ozma, and Langwidere, they're all sitting in front of like this 28-person army of Oz,
Yeah.
which has grown from one man with long whiskers to 28. So good for them.
They learned.
They did learn.
All it takes is being
They learned
attacked.
something.
Yeah.
But they like Dorothy comes in and she's like, "Oh wow, they're all like dressed differently, like with different badges." And she's like, "Oh man, are all these guys officers? Like, because they look like they're like generals or something."
They're like highly decorated and stuff.
And it turns out all of them are officers except for one of them, because they said the logic is officers are more reliable and like they're more like
Are they
able
gonna
to
say
fight.
the gatekeeper?
No, well,
They don't specify.
They
He
don't
could be
specify.
one.
Oh,
He could
okay.
be
They've
one
got
of them.
they've got 8 generals, 6 colonels, 7 majors, and 5 captains, and 1 private
And
for all of
one
them to
private.
command.
Yeah, there's one like soldier. And also I will say Ozma adds that also they look so like official that it really brings the vibe too. She's like, also they look good.
Vibology.
She's like, "Oh, I like this."
Yeah.
So
But-
Ozma calls this meeting to order, and they begin discussing how they plan to liberate the royal family of Ev from the Nome King.
Yeah, and I will say Ozma sets the rest of the story off with this sentence, which is her being like a badass little girl boss. But she says, "We will hold a solemn conference to decide the best manner of liberating the royal family of this fair land of Ev from their long imprisonment."
Dude, I
Set
think
in
you're
motion.
really
Wow.
you're all really gonna love Ozma in this book. I love
Yeah.
Ozma in this book, and it's like we didn't get to spend any time with Ozma in the last book because she was
No.
Tip.
Yeah, weirdly.
Well, that's
yeah,
her
you're
dead
right.
name. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does she associate
We
with that
don't-
part of her?
Let's not talk about it right now. It's a bigger conversation.
That's a big conversation.
But yeah, you'll get to know Ozma though,
Okay.
more than you already have, because I feel like we've gotten a little flavor for her already. Like she, we will get a flavor for her, and we will very soon, because that was the last of chapter 8, which was titled Chapter 8, The Hungry Tiger. And Blake, what would you call that chapter?
Chapter 8. Welcome to the cockfight.
Ooh, sexy.
A little guitar riff at the end.
Chapter 9, The Royal Family of Ev.
So the Tin Woodman starts the meeting by telling everyone that Ozma has wanted to send troops to save the royal family of Ev for a long time, but that pesky deadly desert is between Ev and Ozma and Oz.
So basically, I don't know how, but they got the news though. It came by plane. Well, not plane.
It was
I don't know how they
in
got it.
the National Enquirer. Or
Oh, okay.
something.
She just saw in the headline, but basically she was like, okay, the royal family, the queen and her 10 children are imprisoned, and no one in Ev is powerful enough to liberate them. No one else can do anything. And she was like, well, obviously, I want to help, but yeah, she couldn't cross the desert. But she has friends in high places or southern places.
Oh,
Anyone?
you said in smother places?
Southern. Glinda.
I said some other places, and you just let it go.
I was like, no, never
That
heard
made
of
enough
that.
sense to you. I guess we are in Oz.
But yeah, they went to Glinda, who provided them with that green carpet that they were walking upon when we last met.
magically unrolled under them across the
that
desert.
Protected them
Oh,
from the
okay, I
deadly
do
sands of the
remember.
desert. So
Okay.
Glinda gave that to them.
Oh,
Now
okay.
they're here, queer, and ready to kick some A.
Yeah, they took their
Yes.
finest soldiers, and there they are.
And TikTok is like, why would you wage war on the Nome King since he hasn't done anything wrong?
Yeah, he's like, oh, he didn't do anything wrong. The king of Ev, sold his family and then killed himself, but he sold them. The Nome King just did a transaction.
Yeah, it was he sold them in exchange
Yeah.
for a long life.
And Ozma did not know that. She still says there's got to be some way to liberate them, but she's like, okay, so they were actually sold to him, which still that's fucked up.
Can't do
But,
anything in
it's not
court.
he kidnapped them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go to the land of what's the law?
Yeah.
Langolier is my uncle was a wicked man, and if he hadn't jumped in the sea to kill himself, or if he had killed himself before selling everyone, no one would have even cared. She was like, but now I'm stuck here, and he sold himself for a long life. And then Ozma's like, well, if he died, he didn't get a long life, so actually the Nome King must release them.
Oh,
Yeah.
we love a loophole.
So yeah, so
It's a stretch.
Ozma
Why not?
Ozma pulls a little dark night. She's like, where is she? She wants to know where the queen and her children are.
And then in this exchange,
Thank you.
we get all of the tea on the Nome King.
Ooh.
His name is, any guesses?
Hmm.
I wonder what our drink name is tonight.
Oh,
I bet Hannah doesn't know.
shoot. Something on the rocks. Don't
Okay,
remember the
you
first
got
part.
3 out of the 4, and all 3 that are actually words.
What was it, Rufus?
So the Nome King's name is Roquat of the Rocks. We are drinking Roquat on the rocks tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see.
Hence the big ice
And
cube.
so his
Rosequat?
palace, Roquat.
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 Roquat, yeah.
Roquat of the Rocks. RuPaul Charles of the Rocks.
I thought I recognized that name somewhere.
But his palace is located deep beneath ground, and we know that he's turned the queen and her children into ornaments and bric-a-brac around his house.
Yeah, he's just keeping them
Yikes.
as treasures. They're just
But they still
spread
have
throughout.
a soul, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
there's,
it seems like it.
So yeah, similar to how Tip
Well, and we'll
would have
get
been a
there,
marble
but
statue.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
God.
it is like that. They're basically imprisoned in their own bodies.
It's like Narnia.
But Dorothy's like, now who is this Nome King? And now we're gonna get the tea.
Yeah. And so he commands all the rocks and all that they contain.
Ruler of the underground world.
Yes, he like all the jewels, he commands thousands of gnomes, Nomes, which are just like quote queerly shaped but powerful sprites. So they're just like little fairy things. We'll get to that later. But they like run his forges and his furnaces. They like smelt gold, and then they like hide the gold and the silver and the gemstones in the earth. So like the idea is that everything that we have on the surface that's like precious is stolen from the gnomes, because like they make it, they put it down there.
Somewhere.
Yeah, and then like we dig it up and find it. So it's interesting.
So the gnomes, because of that, because like we steal their precious metals and resources and stuff, they hate surface people. They can't stand them. So like this idea of getting an army and then going and marching on the gnomes is actually like a really scary thing to do, because they hate surface people and they're just crazy.
They'll go crazy.
Yeah, they're not gonna like that. Also,
I wouldn't want to get a gnome mad.
No, you wouldn't. Trust me.
Yeah.
You don't even know
tell.
how big they are.
They're
yet.
really frightening.
I can just tell.
actually.
They're
I'm
small and they're
excited.
quick.
They are
They're
quick.
super quick. It is like a really dangerous situation for them to be walking into. And the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman like make comments that are like, yeah, and we're also like literally risking our lives, because like they're surrounded by furnaces down there, like melting metals all the time. The Scarecrow is highly flammable, and the Tin Woodman has a melting point of 450 degrees.
Yeah.
So
And it made
the
me
book
think.
doesn't say that. I Googled it.
But we know.
It made me think. If the Tin Woodman was melted down, could he be recast into a new form? Like, would his soul survive? Like,
I think
at
it
what
would, because
point?
I remember once we talked about how the Tin Man is a spirit.
Yeah, and
And
not like
that-
the thing.
Yeah, and it almost is like his like thing, like the tin that he's in is like he just, I don't know, possesses it or something.
It's like if
It's
he's
like the tin wouldn't be destroyed, so like
I
he
feel like
probably would survive.
If the fucking what's his name?
Scarecrow.
Scarecrow, if he can be stuffed with money and
Oh
still
yeah,
be
he can have
himself,
any like filling. That's
then I think
true.
that the Tin Man can get new parts.
But if you had just the money and not the sack, would you still have the Scarecrow?
It's
We don't have
God,
time. We
guys,
don't have
that's
time.
a
We
big
don't have time.
question.
We're gonna have to put down the Scarecrow one day and just not talk about the mystery anymore. Because
have to
it will
accept it as
never
it.
make
yeah,
sense.
It really won't.
Not at least not to our satisfaction. But
Yeah.
all
So-
to say though, Langwidere bursts in here and says that she can't stand the heat, so she's gonna stay home. And she wishes them success because she's really tired of ruling the kingdom. And Ozma literally just says, "We do not need you. Like, we don't fucking need you, Langwidere. We came here and conquered you in like 2 seconds."
Yeah,
You're
Langwidere's
nothing.
like, okay, well, I'm bored of wearing this head. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the book says when she was gone, and surely no one was sorry to see her go. They continued the grown-up conversation.
We don't
Basically.
like Langwidere.
She's just a little brat.
Well, she's
She
wearing
is.
head number 27 or
Oh,
whatever.
still.
So she's a bitch.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
She's
okay.
she's wearing
I
the
do
bad
remember
one.
hearing, yeah,
Yeah,
not
but
27.
but she's gone.
Yeah.
And Ozma's like, "Hey, TikTok, like, will you join us on this quest?" And he's like, "I am the slave of the girl Dorothy who rescued me from prison. I will go if she goes." And Dorothy's like, "Yeah, I'll go. I wouldn't want to miss out on the fun."
The
and I'm
fun?
like, "Fun? This is the scariest thing that's ever happened in Oz. Like, the Civil War was a joke,
Nick-
but this
yeah.
is in. She doesn't even know about that yet."
I'm sorry. Is this the same little bitch who was like, I want to go home?
Right.
The entire last
Now
book?
that she knows she can get back and forth pretty easy,
You know,
like
she did. I'm sure she has a lot of confidence. One, because she doesn't deal with the stuff back at home, and two,
True.
when she did go to the fairy country, she fucking killed all the evil people, and
Yeah.
then was able to go back home.
she has a
again.
100% success rate, and she's
Exactly.
so young.
And
Oh my
she's-
God.
She's
So
an
she's like,
A-list.
no
She's
big
an
deal.
A-list celebrity in Oz. I mean,
Yeah.
she was in a foreign country and spent the night in jail, and they were like, "Nope,
Yeah.
absolutely not." Ambassadors, go get Dorothy.
Get her out of here. Yeah.
But yeah, Dorothy, Bellina, and TikTok agree to join on the quest, and Ozma's like, "Cool, we march at dawn."
Yeah. And everyone else, or not everyone else, they all just feast and they tend to themselves. The lion and the tiger like wander around. They're like finally set free. I guess they've been shackled to the fucking chariot
They've
this
been
whole
chained up
time.
outside, but now they're roaming. And we do get into some like hungry tiger play, which I almost
Yeah.
don't even want to mention.
I have
But-
like 2 paragraphs about this.
Yeah, about his 30 lbs of rare indies.
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
Let's hear it.
So you probably won't remember this name, but there's Nonda. She's the girl servant who like opened the door for them.
She's
at
Langwadier's
Langwadier's.
Oh,
maid
yeah.
She's that like little lady, little girl. So young woman, let's say she's not a little girl.
She's the Jalea Jam of Ev.
Yes, she is.
We always need one.
So they're like the lion and tiger wandering the castle. And Nanda is cornered by the hungry tiger, and he asks her to please give him permission to eat her. And she's like, no. She literally just says no many times. And then he's like, okay, fine, but I'm going to need 30 pounds of rare tenderloin, a peck of potatoes, which I think is actually like an agricultural measurement, and then 6 gallons of ice cream for dessert. And I'm like, ice cream?
Why do you even know what that is?
Why do you know what potatoes are for that matter?
Yeah,
Do they even have
what is this
refrigeration?
You want
diet?
your tenderloin medium rare?
Oh, yeah.
Or like rare? Like just eat it.
Yeah.
He's a weird guy.
He is weird.
He's strange.
I want to give him a hug because he's a tiger, but
That is sworn to not eat you. Yeah.
yeah, and
That'd
he
be
can't
fun.
even eat me. He's just gonna be
Yeah.
depressed. Fine,
Yeah.
that's most of the tigers I've ever seen in real life.
I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, the
But
ones that are half a
Dorothy
kill.
spends most of the day just like talking with the Tin Woodman and the Scarecrow,
Yeah.
and they basically relay to her like the events of the last book, like Tip, Mombi, Jack, Sawhorse, Ginger, Pastoria, Ozma, like
Yeah.
all of it. Like they tell her
It goes
everything.
into depth, which we will not do here.
Like we mentioned earlier, like the Cowardly Lion was not present in the
How
last
long
book.
was that summary in the book? Was it like several pages of
like
just
2
them?
paragraphs.
It was
Oh,
it was
okay.
decent, but like
It was pretty thorough.
I wonder if he
Yeah.
was like taking up space.
Right?
Maybe.
He did that in the last book, honestly. Like there's like a whole chapter
Yeah.
where Tip's just like, and then Dorothy did this. And it's just like, okay, this isn't the
Well, it's
fucking
like
Bible.
those like shitty Christmas movies that will always have a montage of what just happened in the movie. Like we didn't just watch the movie.
like set to
Yes.
like some sad folk song.
yeah,
So
it's like
funny.
remember
It won't
this?
be Christmas anymore.
Exactly.
Anyway,
but
the Cowardly Lion wasn't present in the last book. So like when he received word of the new princess of the Emerald City, he was like, oh, like I have to go see her. So he does, and like, so I'm led to believe that this happened right before they came to get Dorothy.
yeah, because when he got to the Emerald City, when the lion got to the Emerald City, they were like about to leave for Ev, and he's like, "Please just let me go with you." Then, like, he was also like tired of being in the woods. I guess I don't know.
Well, he
was
was
described.
He
why?
was feeling cowardly, but ultimately it was kind of like when Ozma came about, it was kind of like, oh, I have to go to Bethlehem and see the babe, basically. And so
That's fair.
he went and met Ozma, and she was like, by the way, I have a quest. And he was like, cool, let me get my friend the Hungry Tiger, and yeah, we got you.
Got
So like
it.
the Cowardly Lion doesn't even know Ozma, like at all.
That was chapter 9, the royal family of Ev and Blake. What would you call that?
Let's get down to business to defeat Roquat.
We're gonna have to cut that because it's copyright.
Disney really is gonna get us.
I do not own this. I do not own this. I do not own this.
Chapter 10, the giant with the hammer.
So the procession is moving through like this beautiful like farmland of Ev. And it's just like it's a really peaceful ride at the start. And then Belina screams for everyone to stop.
She says, wait. And Ozma basically hits the brakes. Soldiers are like tumbling over each other. They're like, oh, what's the commotion? What's going on?
I mean, they're on their way to literal war. So
Yeah.
naturally they're a little freaked out when someone goes, wait.
yeah. Belina flies into a bush. She is like running at this
Belina
point.
doesn't mess around.
Well, Dorothy explains that she's just laying her morning egg.
Oh,
And she notes that the eggs are quite fresh.
Yeah.
Whatever that's worth.
So Belina comes back and like she hops up into the chariot back on Dorothy's lap and like everyone's getting ready to go.
Well-
and Belina's like, isn't someone gonna go get my egg? Like,
Also, the Tin Woodman is being really impatient. Like, before she even comes
That's
back,
true.
he's like, oh, so the entire cavalcade has to wait while she lays an egg? And Dorothy's just like, that's just her habit. Like, she shouldn't be rushed.
yeah.
And the Scarecrow adds this gross joke, which is, well, L. Frank Baum uses the Scarecrow to make a gross joke, which is, oh, if she rushes, she may lay a scrambled egg. And I'm like, ugh, she's pushing too hard and she scrambles her egg inside of her and then lays it.
You know,
Isn't
you
that
guys shouldn't be
horrific?
talking about that.
That's
it's just
disgusting.
really
Yeah.
not your business.
If you don't have a cloaca, you cannot talk about egg laying.
Exactly.
That's the rule. But anyway, that happens. And then, she comes back and they're like, wait. Or she's like, wait, so someone has to go get my egg. Like, doesn't someone want my egg? And the scarecrow runs over and grabs it, puts it in her pocket.
She takes great pride in people eating her eggs.
Well, honestly, it's not a bad idea because there are some fucking. I mean, there's one human, 2 humans.
Well,
all the soldiers too,
Ozma.
actually.
All the soldiers. That's right.
the
I totally
soldiers.
forgot.
This is the most living beings
So yeah,
we've ever
honestly,
had.
it's not really that irrational that she's asking for people to eat her eggs because there needs to be
Yeah.
food
Yeah.
fed
He's like,
to these people.
at least I'm
Yeah.
popping out something y'all can eat. Every time we stop
Exactly.
for
What are you
it's
guys-
trash.
What are you guys doing? Tin Woodman?
Well, so I
Yeah.
mean, Scarecrow is like, yeah, I'll go get your egg, but he's on the back of Sawhorse, so Sawhorse like steers him in there, and they go and find the egg, and they catch up with the army who started marching again, and Scarecrow's like, what do I do with it?
Yeah, it's just in his pockets or his pocket, and Dorothy's just like, I don't know, maybe the hungry tiger wants it. And the hungry tiger just like looks at them, and he's just like, that one egg
That's
is not
not
gonna
enough.
fill me.
I can't
up.
even bite that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna swallow that.
Like he didn't even want to eat a human because
Yeah.
he said it wasn't enough.
Or
What
a
makes you
chicken.
think-
Yeah.
What makes you think that he's gonna eat a tiny little egg and be like, oh yeah, I'll just
Oh,
take
I'm
that.
just so full. It's although I will say there's like almonds. Almonds fill me up. I can eat 3 almonds and be full. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about it to me.
Oh.
But maybe that's his egg. Maybe that's the one thing that'll fill him up. Or maybe that's
Yeah.
his almond.
Guess not.
But yeah, guess not. The scarecrow then reflects that one egg isn't enough to even make a sponge cake. I don't know why he knows that. He's never had to cook or eat in his life. He's also
was
2 years
born,
old.
and then he was a king, and now he's still a politician. So I don't really know.
And now he's
Yeah.
talking about sponge cakes. Something doesn't add up.
But he's like, okay, I'll keep it as a souvenir. Nobody can eat this. I'll just slip it in my pocket, keep it as a souvenir.
And I do have a really quick guest trivia for Hannah. Hannah, this is multiple choice. I know how you like it.
Mm-hmm.
How many eggs does it take to make a sponge cake?
Oh,
Does it take
shit.
3, 4, 6, or 8? I referenced 2 online recipes for this, and they both match.
For the same
Like
size
a
cake.
whole,
Yeah.
like a regular cake.
This would be 2
many
8-inch round pans. So you'd make basically like a normal cake. It's a 2-layer cake with like frosting in the middle.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
3, 4, 6, 8.
3, 4, 6, or 8.
3, 4, 6. I'm going to say. I'm gonna say 4. No. Sorry. I meant 6.
Okay, that's actually correct.
Yes!
Yes, that is correct.
I thought that I
Oh.
didn't have an option between 4 and 8 for a second. I was like, no, he did say 6. So that's what I'm gonna choose.
Yes.
Because I was like, it can't be 8.
It couldn't be 8. I can't believe it's 6. The only reason I looked it up, I was like, is 1 egg not enough egg to make a pound or a sponge cake? Like, how many eggs could it take? And then I looked it up. That's why I checked 2 sources. I checked my first source, which was Natasha's Kitchen, which is a great little food blog. She does good work. And I was like, 6 eggs? Natasha, what the fuck are you doing? And then I checked Food Network. Same thing. So
I don't think 6 sounds that crazy.
I don't bake either, I guess. So it's not that
Yeah,
crazy.
I feel like when I think of a cake, well, I don't know. When you said the 2 layers things, I was like, oh, well, 3 for each layer.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know where it's coming from. I
Just,
don't
like,
know why.
spreading
You're like,
I just
if I
break
were
them.
to-
The shells are the, it's the texture.
Oh yeah, part of that crunch that you always look for in a sponge cake.
In a cake. Yeah.
Well, there is actually a bonus question because I didn't think you'd get that right just based on prior performance. But the bonus question is the earliest recorded recipe of a sponge cake is in a book called The English Huswife. When was that book published? And let's hint that Middle English equivalent of housewife is huswife. So Middle English, come on.
I don't even know.
1697.
Oh, you're guessing?
1615, actually. You're really close, yeah. Which
What
is
were you gonna guess?
prime Middle English.
I I didn't
Hannah
even
was
have
going
my answer
BC,
yet.
I think.
I was like 600.
Also, just as a fun fact, the word huswife, which is now housewife, is the derivative of the word hussy.
I figured.
I was thinking it was pretty old after hearing huswife.
Yeah, yeah, the huswife. Okay, anyway. So at that point, though, they keep the egg in the pocket and they just keep going.
Yeah, and they continue marching, and like the Ozian army makes it to a valley between two mountains, which we might have mentioned before. I can't remember. That when Dorothy was in her like prison cell, she could see like these three mountains in the distance. So now they're between two
I
of
do
them
remember you saying
and
that.
walking directly toward one.
Yeah.
One of which is the great mountain that the Nome King's palace is beneath.
Things are getting like a little bit rocky, and yeah, like they're coming like up through these mountains, and they come to a wide canyon. And this is a very common experience for people in Oz. Dorothy in particular, where it's like, oh fuck, like there's a giant canyon. How could we possibly move on? But things have changed in Oz.
Well, we're in Ev, baby.
Oh, that's true. Things have changed across the fairylands because Dorothy's like, oh, whatever will we do? And Ozma takes a scrap of green fabric out of her pocket, throws it on the ground. It like transforms into the carpet that they came across the desert on, and it just rolls out across the ravine, and they walk across it with it.
So that
Like it's
thing
a
can
literal
just
flying
do
carpet.
anything.
They don't even
Yeah.
need to be
So
walking
basically,
right now.
like,
They could
since-
be in the air. They could
They
be
don't-
flying.
yeah,
They don't
can do
even
whatever
need
they
a
want.
gump.
Well,
No, they
so
don't.
the carpet in particular makes it so that whatever is beneath them, like they're protected from it.
This is like the updated like gump.
Honestly, yeah.
Gump
I
me
honestly,
too.
I don't know what was happening technologically, like in these days and age, but like with the TikTok man,
They have
and,
ice
like,
cream.
ice cream, and like some of the like other things that we're gonna learn about very shortly.
Very
Even
shortly.
like it just seems like things were becoming very robotic at this point in time.
Yeah, it's an interesting insight into that time too. I'd be interested to actually look into like
a
what
little
was
more
happening.
industrial.
I think
Definitely
so.
that.
When was the Industrial Revolution? I'll look into that.
like the 1800s, I think.
Oh god.
Very steam
But
engine.
but the carpet is making it so much easier for them to move along, and so they keep using it. And then after some time, the mountains on either side of the valley are just beginning to like narrow to the point where they have to like move in a single file line.
Yeah, it's like they're walking like through
Yikes.
like a crag or something. Like it's like imagine like rock walls.
Walls
both
on
sides,
either side of
basically.
That would make me very, very nervous.
Yes.
Oh,
Super
I would turn around.
claustrophobic.
I would
Yeah.
not be
Yeah.
continuing through that.
Single file.
Anything can happen.
Ugh, yeah, I hate that.
Well, speaking of anything can happen, what happens?
Well, they start hearing something. A rather novel sound that I would call a thud or a thump.
Oh, that's the worst sound to hear during that.
Yeah, you're in the middle, like under
Yeah.
in a canyon.
I was like,
Honestly-
I would rather hear a growl.
Yeah,
Right.
because
A thump.
a growl is coming from one way or the other.
Yeah, and
But
it's
the
like
thump-
they're in the same position as I am.
Seriously, yeah. We're both scared of each other. Great.
A thump is, oh, I'm being squished into a piece of paper.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
And the ground is like shaking. So they keep going, and it keeps getting louder
Well, you gotta
and
run.
louder. Well, they're walking forward, unfortunately, and they come like the so
Are
like
the
they're-
30 men still with them?
Yeah, they're all in the so they're single file. So it's like lion, tiger, Ozma, Dorothy, all the way
It's like
back.
a mile and a half
Yeah.
of people.
Oh,
Yeah, it
my
must be.
God.
And so,
some people
ugh,
are gonna
The
die.
people at the back don't
I'm
even
just
know what's
having a
happening.
feeling.
So they're walking through this like kind of like tunnel, well not tunnel, but like crag of rock. It kind of opens up a little bit, and they can see a little distance, and they see a giant. He is over 100 feet tall, has the form of a man, but covered in iron plates. I'm thinking like Iron Giant is what I have in my notes.
I mean, the book even literally calls him
It
the
does.
Iron Giant.
In my notes, I
Oh.
was like, oh, like the Iron Giant, and then like later it does. But he has a giant hammer, like a mallet that he's holding, and he's lifting his arm up, and then he hits the ground between his feet. So he's like straddling the path, and so he's just like hammering the ground, raising it up, hammering the ground, raising it
You
up.
can't
Oh
go
my
on
God.
either side of him. You have to
That's
go beneath
giving me
him.
that like imagery of the story of the guy that made that canyon in the U.S. Have you ever heard that? It was like a giant
No.
man that
Paul
actually.
Bunyan?
Oh, Paul Bunyan.
Yeah,
yeah. He
wait.
like
Jeez
he held
Louise.
his.
What? I didn't know.
She's. Oh, that's interesting. I was gonna say she's from Nevada, but That's the
That's even-
U.S.
that's even closer to Paul
It
Bunyan than we
is,
are.
yeah. That's like you're like Southwest. You should be ashamed. But yes, it's very that like he's just like doing it over and over. And yeah, the way that the hammer head, like the mallet or whatever, hits the path, like you couldn't walk on either side of it. It completely like seals the entrance and then goes up, seals the entrance and goes up.
Yeah. So
And it's
like
horrifying.
get crushed today. It's kind of
Yeah.
like in Mario Kart. There's like those big boulder men. Who
yeah.
drop
Oh
down.
yeah, the thwomps.
The thwomps.
Thwomp, thwomp.
And it's just so funny because like, yeah, Wyatt's description of this iron giant banging a hammer into the road, and L. Frank Baum is like, that explains the thumps.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it fucking does.
Yeah, what the fuck is this? I didn't know
Yeah.
you had giants.
L. Frank Baum also reflects that the carpet certainly can't help them here, which is not good. But I was like, I don't know, when they use the carpet to get across that canyon, I was like, Dorothy had to figure shit out when she was here last time,
Yeah,
and
she
now
had
they
a
just have a flying carpet.
The
but it
carpet
cannot help
only
them here.
protects you from what's under you, not from what's
Yeah.
above you.
That's what he
True.
says.
So flip it upside down and put it on your
Hold
head.
it.
Yeah,
hold
hold
it.
I would not want to be the one to test that.
Yeah, me neither.
But the lion is freaking out. He is like, oh my god, like
Oh,
fuck,
he's
like
big scared.
he's not enjoying himself. And TikTok chimes in and he's like, the Iron Giant is a fine fellow. And he explains that he was also made by Smith and
TikTok
Tinker.
knows
He knows
everyone.
everything.
Yeah,
Well,
he knows
okay,
everyone.
He knows
they were made by the
everything.
same people.
But
Oh.
they're
Smith and
cousins.
Tinker, yeah, made
That's
him.
right, Smith and Tinker.
But they clarify, they ask questions of TikTok, and he's like, oh, yeah, he can't speak or think. He just moves. So the only like wind up that he has is to pound the ground to keep people away from the Gnome King. Because the Gnome King had basically bought him from Smith and
so that's
Tinker.
his protection.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So
yeah.
the Scarecrow's like, okay, so he's just basically like a motion machine. Is there any way that we can stop him? And TikTok's like,
get past him.
yeah, well, the TikTok's like, well, the Gnome King's the only one with the key that stops him. Like, TikTok winds up with keys. This guy gets wound up with keys too, I guess. And the Gnome
The
King's the
same
only one
key?
with the copy. No, unfortunately.
Well, we'll never know,
Good
but that's
guess.
possible.
Good
Skeleton
guess.
key.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, heck, guys, what are we going to do? And the Scarecrow does what he does best. And he's like, allow me to take some time to go into the corner and think it through.
What corner?
Yeah. He just goes.
let me walk 2
You're in a
steps to the
hallway.
wall.
It does specifically say that he just goes and like faces the rock wall for a few minutes, and I was just like,
He's like, give me a moment.
yeah, what the hell? I guess he can't close his
Turns
eyes.
around.
So, but then he has an epiphany, which is frankly, no, it's not. It doesn't take a genius to think of it. He's like, oh, after it hits the ground, it has to lift the hammer up, so you can run in between during that.
Okay, well, it made it seem like the hammer was like, dunk, 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 dunk.
Yeah.
That is
Like they
definitely
couldn't
how they make it
escape,
seem.
but-
isn't
But
it?
it's going pretty fast to the point where they're like, we have to go one
Well,
at
it
a
can't
time.
be all like fucking 50 of them
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, they have to literally take. I imagine that passing under this hammer took them over half an hour.
Like 5 at a
Like,
time.
Yeah.
one at a
Also,
time.
One at a time?
They're going one at a
Oh,
time.
well, because they're in single. That's right. It's
Yeah.
very
Oh,
tight
and there's
corners.
no room. That's true.
Yeah, they can't just like run all together.
God.
Yeah, the lion's like, I guess I'll go first since like I'm at the front.
Yeah.
And Ozma's like, the fuck you are? Like I'm in this chariot.
Yeah,
But
she's
we're
like,
not
I'm being
both gonna
pulled-
make it.
Yeah, she's like, I will be crushed.
Yeah, I don't like that.
So they they untie him from the chariot though.
Okay.
And Ozma rides on his back, and then Dorothy rides on the tiger's back, and so they go one at a time.
Dorothy like tells Ozma,
I'd
she's like,
love
oh
to see
hey,
that.
hold on to his mane. I used to ride him, and that's what I did.
Yeah,
And
it's
Ozma's
very
like,
sweet.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
It
and then
is
she
sweet.
does. She holds on for her fucking life.
The girls take turns on the big cats. They get through just fine.
Yeah.
Scarecrow goes through on the sawhorse, and they just narrowly miss getting
No.
Yeah.
The
Well,
sawhorse-
not everyone else has a horse or a tiger.
hit. Right.
I know. And there's 28 left. So the Tin Woodman and TikTok approach, and they just kind of run through.
They take, they're just like, TikTok's like, oh, I'm going to get as close to it as possible and then go as soon as it comes out.
Yeah, so he
And
did it
Tin
smart.
Man's like, oh, that
Okay.
makes sense, and does the same thing.
Yeah.
Follows. Okay.
Then the 26 officers are scared. Or the 26 officers, is it 26 officers and one private?
Yes. 26.
The
yeah.
army altogether mainly the officers of the army are scared, and they're like, "Oh, we don't want. We forgot our we forgot our
We gotta get our
mustache
key-
or something."
Yeah, our
Okay,
mustache brush.
Yeah. But they're
They
like,
actually said that?
Yes.
yeah, they were scared.
They're like, we're not
Oh.
afraid of war, but we are afraid of being smushed into
Yeah.
pancakes.
So the lion and the tiger have to jump back and take them across one by one
12
because they're
times.
so
12.
scared. Yeah, and then 13 times.
That's exhausting.
But then
And the tiger doesn't even eat.
yeah, so he's I don't know where he gets his energy
It's
from.
13
honestly,
times. You're right with that math.
yeah.
I got 12 from the book.
They're good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's interesting. So, but at the end, the private is left on the other side, though, and the lion and the scarecrow are like, "Oh, or the lion and the tiger are like, we're fucking
they're like,
tired.
we can't.
Yeah, we
Why,
can't
just
do
leave
it."
him.
So
Just
the-
come
well,
back for him.
That was their
sawhorse can run
idea.
it.
They
Yeah.
were like, they're like, let's leave him and like have him watch the
Guard
chariot,
the chariot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
I
then
need
we'll
someone
come
to do
back
it.
for him. But the rest of the army is like, well, who are we gonna order or who are we gonna command if we don't have the private? We need our private. So the sawhorse is like, I volunteer as tribute.
Yeah, and
You need the one person. What about who? The officer? Are they ahead? Like, just command everyone else.
yeah. Well, there's only one private. So like the thing is that I don't know the hierarchy, but like the generals can command the commanders, who can command the lieutenants. Then there's no one beneath them.
So they just want to have someone.
They just it's a very high level, like probably
Where's
culturally
Ginger
specific.
and her army? We need her back.
Right, yeah.
There was no hierarchy
We need
there.
a
and they
bad
did
Yeah,
great.
seriously.
Yeah, and they had knitting needles. But so
Sick and tired of the men armies.
yeah, see that's an interesting actually aspect too, because yeah, the men not doing that good in the army. And then and you know what? Glinda's army is all women too.
That's
We have some
right.
powerful women armies.
True. There's powerful women all throughout this entire series.
Agreed.
But yeah, the sawhorse is like, fine, let's go get the private. And on his way back, he mistimes his cross, and the hammer smashes down on the sawhorse's head. And I'm not fucking with you.
Yeah, because you guys have done that.
His head is driven into the ground.
No.
The private is thrown off and lands on the giant's arm.
He's like, whoa, and like
Yeah,
grabs
whoop.
onto the giant. So he's like on the hammer arm.
Yeah, and it's still swinging. Like it has not stopped. So that happens, and
no.
also
Why did they make?
I know. And the giant is over 100 feet tall. So I think that the private is probably about 70 feet in the air. Like if my arm,
He's
my arm,
frighteningly high.
He got
like
flung up
he's
that
pretty
high?
high. Yeah, I mean the force of that hammer hitting the ground would be like a pole vault. And so
Okay,
he's way up
yeah,
there.
what happened? What?
So the scarecrow runs in to get the sawhorse, but he's going slow, and his right foot gets smashed by the hammer.
The lion?
No,
No,
the
the
scarecrow.
scarecrow.
Oh, the scarecrow.
The scarecrow, yeah. Before
Isn't
you
that so different though?
It
You're
is.
like, ooh,
It is
his
so
foot, and
different.
then you're like, oh, scarecrow.
I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, the
it is
scarecrow.
different with the scarecrow. The lion is flesh.
But it smashes his foot, and then also the scarecrow again because he wasn't able to grab it. Or not the sawhorse. He smashes the scarecrow's foot.
No.
The sawhorse is still
It's
under there.
Smashed again.
And the sawhorse is dead. Just kidding, but he should be. He should be dead by
You
all
got
rights.
it. That is.
Okay, can I just tell you something real fast? Because this is actually hilarious. My next note says the sawhorse's ears are broken off, which is the truth.
Okay.
And I wrote, leaving him dead. But I meant to write, leaving him deaf. And so when Wyatt just said, and he was dead, I was like, wait, it's
He
true.
is dead.
Like my notes are telling me he's dead. We all
But
have
no,
a funeral.
His ears are knocked off, so
Yeah.
he's not going to be able to hear anything. And his knee is cracked and needs to be like tied up with string.
Yeah, he is deaf. They're like, we're gonna have to fix that. But the scarecrow's fine. His leg just got smashed.
He's
but
fine.
They can fix him up real good.
yeah, I don't even, he probably just had to like fluff it out like a pillow,
Yeah,
you
just
know?
fucking
Also-
straighten out those money bills and call it a day.
Right,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
is he
actually-
still full of money? I didn't
No,
think
he's
about
not,
that.
and we're going to talk about that in a second. But Belina's the last in line, apparently, even though she should have technically
Wait,
been
she's
with
not
Dorothy.
even over.
She's not on
yet?
the safe side yet. But Belina's just like,
Yeah.
like she
she just flies through.
She flies?
She literally
She's
she just goes
fine.
That bitch doesn't need us. No one helping her. She was
No.
like, I just saw what happened to the sawhorse.
Selena's a fucking
Right.
G, dude.
I'll take myself.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
So, in order to rescue the private, the Scarecrow lays below the giant, and he's like, "Hey, jump down on me. I'm soft, and I'm stuffed with straw." And like you just said, I have the note. Like, I thought he was stuffed with money, and he's the treasurer of the Winkies and Nick. Like,
Yeah.
is that not what happened in the last
Was he
book?
demoted and they took all his money?
Yeah, they were like, "Give us the money. Give us that American money. We need you to be full of straw again."
Yeah.
Honestly, he probably, if he fell in the river, let's say, since the last book, they would have taken all the money out of him. They probably would just put straw back
That's
in.
true. He's been restuffed so many
true. Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Like, it's not sanitary to keep the same stuff in there all the time.
That's
It's like
true.
toxic shock, But I just wanted to note that this is one of the many times that the Scarecrow is like, jump on me, I'm soft.
Yeah, like every
And
book.
I hate it. I'm just like, you're not that soft, Scarecrow. Like, how much are
He's
you
a
stuck?
pillow.
He's like, give me that private.
I'm not gonna drop from
Yeah,
80,
he's like, fall on me.
I'm not gonna drop from 80 feet onto a body pillow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right?
don't think. Yeah, you got to give me a trampoline or something. Stretch him out.
Well, the private actually does something that I think is pretty smart and probably just what anyone would do, which is like he tries to time it. So he waits till the hammer falls,
Is on the
so he's as
ground.
close to the ground as possible. But I did a little math just for fun. I was gonna make this into a quiz somehow for you, Hannah, but it's just too much.
Thank
But yeah, this is not gonna be your strong suit. But assuming that he fell off of the giant's forearm, which is the lowest he could possibly get when it's on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
I stood up, I pretended like I swung a mallet, and it was like, the bottom like quarter to half of my body where my forearm was. So that would still be at least 50 feet off the ground when he fell. And just so you know, if you fell from 50 feet with a, like, just if you like were there and then you like rolled off, when you hit the ground, you'd be going 38 miles an hour.
Oh, because the force.
Yes. Yeah. Because of gravity. And I said, okay, well, that's insane. You would die.
Smash.
But I was like, okay, what if somehow I'm doing the math wrong? It's possible. I've done it before. But he's 20 feet off the ground, let's say. That's still 25 miles an hour when you hit the ground.
That's pretty rough.
So
you need something
I can't even
substantial
fall
Yeah.
like 4 feet off the ground without hurting my ankle.
I fell down 4 of the stairs at our house,
Oh, that's
and I had to
right.
go to the emergency room, and I wore a sling for 2 weeks, and I'm still recovering. So
Back was purple.
yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah, that was
awful.
kinda scary.
I turned black. It looked like I was anyway.
Not in like a tasteless
Oh,
way.
not like that. I wasn't doing like black back. I had a
Black back.
bruise. But
So the private jumps down unharmed, shockingly, based on those statistics.
yes, yeah.
And the Tin
Shocking.
Woodman has in the time that it took the private to jump down onto the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman has also affixed new ears to the Sawhorse.
Oh.
Which I would
Efficient.
think, in order for him to be able to hear with them, he might need the powder of life for, because like the Gump couldn't even move his legs because they weren't
true,
sprinkled.
true.
So why on earth should the Sawhorse be able to hear?
Just
with
Well,
because you make
When
ears.
they added the ears, when Tip added the ears to the to the Sawhorse in the last book, did he have to sprinkle powder of life after he added them? I can't
No,
remember.
he didn't. So
He
it's
didn't?
both
Okay.
consistent and inconsistent at the same time. I
Yeah,
guess.
it depends on where you're referencing.
Just
but-
like other books I know.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Which ones?
They go along their merry way.
But that's how the chapter ends. And that was chapter 10, The Giant with the Hammer. And Blake, what would you call that?
I'm not super proud of this one.
Okay.
I call this one The Escape from Vin Diesel because he played the Iron Giant in the 1999 movie
He
The Iron
played
Giant.
He played the Iron Giant?
Oh, okay. I'm more proud of this one then if it was a fun fact for y'all. Maybe.
Whoa. Chapter 11, The Nome King.
So the army is moving closer and closer to the Great Mountain, and as they near it, the peaks of all 3 mountains like start to block out the sunshine, and like the animal presence is like dwindling.
Yeah, there's
you're
like
not
no
hearing-
trees. There's just rocks now.
Yeah.
And it's eerily silent. People are like freaked out. Like they're getting nervous because they're like, it is like dead silent. It's dark. Like we can't really see that well, even though it's the daytime.
Oh.
But there is one sound. The Sawhorse,
No.
of all people, is humming a song.
And they tell us how the chorus
So he's a
goes.
musician now
Yeah.
after
and-
his accident.
Well, he did. It would appear this song.
He had to have made this song. Can I sing it?
I please do. I was going to, but please do.
Okay, well, I set it to the tune of "I'm a Man of Constant Sorrow," and it just works so well.
Okay.
Would a wooden horse in a woodland go? I saw he would. Although he had not had a wooden head, he'd mount the mountain top instead.
He mounted the mountain top
Topping
instead.
Exactly. Thank you. I love that the book says that he's humming the song, but then it also tells us what the lyrics are.
I know. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's like, so we understand humming
It's like
now?
maybe he's like mumbling it.
Oh, that makes sense. I was thinking it was like his like internal monologue. It's like we're getting like everyone's insight, and it's like Ozma being like, "Oh, I'm quite frightened," and Dorothy being like, "I could really go for some nuts and berries."
Yeah.
And then like the sawhorse is like,
singing.
"I am a man."
It's interesting. I was thinking of a more frantic tune, a little more like "What a wooden horse and a woodland go." Like I don't know,
Oh,
just
I
like
like that.
a little
I like
more
that
like
too.
I saw he would, although
That's a very good like walking song. I hear that.
Yeah,
that
he
would make
was-
sense too.
and they're stepping. So anyway,
Both could work.
but it's weird because it's just like commentary on him surviving. He's like, oh, like would the wooden horse go to the woods? Yeah, but he would have had no head, so he would have gone to the mountaintop instead. And I'm like, is the mountaintop heaven, or does that mean like he would have been flung far?
Yeah.
Either way,
He wrote that song in the last 15 minutes.
it makes me wonder about his intelligence level because it seems like he's like a savant in like the best way.
But everyone's just ignoring the sawhorses humming because they know they're nearing the dominion of the Nome King.
No one
and
paid
they're like,
attention.
"We do not- there's no time for songs about sawhorses.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But so they're approaching the dead end. So like, yeah, they're coming to like the end of the corridor of the two mountains. Like they're approaching the third one. So they're coming to like, just like this kind of like dark corner. And they hear some laughing, strange laughing. And Ozma calls out and she says, "Who's there? Who's laughing?" But no one answers. But they do
No.
see something.
This is horror.
It is
It
actually.
actually is quite terrifying.
Horror.
They see these like figures
No.
on the face of the mountain.
On the
and they're
cliffside.
like they're jumping around at like rapid
They're
speed.
moving.
No.
And like it almost looks like like when you're like hiking and you're somewhere up high and the clouds are moving across and you can like see the shadow of
Oh,
them
yeah,
moving
yeah.
across. I picture them moving like that.
It's because whatever they're seeing is the color and texture of the mountain. It says it looks like a piece of the mountain like broke off, but then like is like moving around. It says that whatever they were, they moved around the rock like a fly moves around a pane of glass.
So they weren't like
So they're not, like,
looking-
holding
they're not
on.
looking for rock to stand on. They're just like stuck
Yeah.
to the face of the mountain.
They're kind of just moving about.
Ew.
It's very, especially like in the dark, like the crew here can't even see them. They can't make out shapes. They're kind of varied in shape. They say that they're like irregular, but it's creepy.
I
So
could
just like this
Yeah.
jeering laughter, and you can see something's running around the mountain.
That's so scary.
And
That's
TikTok-
giving like it.
Yeah,
is giving
it
it.
is. It's really
like totally like cerebral.
Yeah,
terror.
like what
yeah,
you're
like
seeing is just
deep
not
horror.
right.
Yes, yeah, not right.
Well, and Dorothy is like totally feeling this, and Dorothy is like super uncomfortable to the point of like pissing her pants. And like, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I was like, she's just a baby.
But honestly, but she looks like she's about to. Like TikTok can see like how unsettled she is.
And he's her
And-
protector.
Yeah, and he's like, oh,
He's
like
like,
pay them no mind. These are just the gnomes. And it's like, oh, so the thing we're here to find.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But he's like, oh, like they're just rock fairies. Like they're not gonna hurt us. Like, but
They're just doing
Ozma-
their business.
They're just
right?
chill. For some reason, they're laughing derisively, but they are just existing where they always live. So it's like,
Right.
But he's like, Ozma, like you need to call for the king. Like, yeah, don't pay attention to the gnomes. They don't matter. Like, call for the king. Like he'll show us
Thank
the
God
entrance.
TikTok is there.
I know.
God, he knows
He's-
everything.
He's
Well,
so
he just
wise.
He's a
yes,
computer.
because like
Yeah.
all these horrible, like first the Wheelers, then the Giant Man.
God,
now
yeah.
these gnomes. Like I would I would just not feel the same way about any of those things. I
TikTok
would
is
not be
bad.
able to approach the wheelers.
They'd be dead.
Yeah, I would not
Even-
even bother with the giant men.
No, because if TikTok hadn't said he can't think, I would have been like, he's gonna be pounding. I'm gonna think I can run under, and then he's gonna see me and smash
And
me.
Yeah, I would assume
like
that
you
he'd
know,
see me.
yeah.
And now
So it
these
does change
gnome
it.
things that just look like scary.
They're like shadows. They're like blurs.
Yeah,
they're
what the
they
fuck?
have the upper hand for sure.
That's
Yeah,
terrifying.
and there's many of them all up the
So-
cliff.
Like, yeah, TikTok's like, you have to call for them, and Dorothy's like, Ozma, you do it, and like,
Yeah.
and the gnomes just start laughing again.
They're just
bouncing around,
cackling.
This scares the army so much that they all like command the private at the same time. They're like, about face, and then they all turn around and run out.
Yeah, they all run. Yeah.
That's your panic mode. About face.
About face. Quick! The Tin Woodman has to chase after them. And he's like, hey, like, you're a brave army. Like, why the hell are you running away? And the private's like, I was just following orders, sir. Like, all
I just
26 of them
about
told me.
face.
Yeah, he was like, I was told. He was like, if they tell me to run, I run. If they tell me to fight, I fight. And the Tin Woodman is like, that's good. And then he, like, looks at everyone else and he's like, but you all need to listen to fucking Ozma, and if you don't listen to Ozma, then you're going to be the privates,
Yeah,
and
she's
this
the
private
leader
is
of
going
all
to be
of
your
you.
general. Yeah, and they were like, oh, well, that can't be. No, I won't. I won't be a private again, I guess.
So Ozma being like, okay,
Yeah.
I have to call for the Gnome King. She's like, I demand that the Gnome King appear to us. And the gnomes, they're
just
just
laugh. They just shriek laughter down at her, and she's like, oh, Jesus.
TikTok's like, bitch, you can't command the Gnome King. Like, he's not your people.
Yeah, he's just like, you have to like, you have to like entreat him, like
Convince
ask him.
him.
Yeah, it's like you came to his house. You can't say I command. So Ozma, she says, fine. I request that the Gnome King appear to us. She just switched out the word demand for request. And I'm
Yeah,
like, it's a little weak, but okay. But again, the gnomes just laugh, and they're just shifting all over the
Like,
cliffside.
you really thought, huh?
Yeah.
And TikTok
Really thought.
TikTok is like, you have to like beg him. And
Yeah,
Ozma
like
like turns around to her army and she's like, would you have your ruler beg? And they're like, no.
Hey, everyone, should I beg? And they're like, no, not on your honor, ma'am.
Oh my god.
What does Dorothy say?
So Dorothy's like, well, I'm not afraid to plead with him. I'm just a girl from Kansas, but we have more dignity back home than we know what to do with.
Yeah.
So I'll call. And I don't really know what the point of that is. Is she saying that like, oh, like is she actually saying like, we're dignified enough back home, like I'll just do it? Or is
Honestly,
she being cutting?
Okay, she is. I mean, it's a cutting remark, but I don't think she means it that way.
Got it.
Because before that, like, and I did kind of skip over it, but like the Scarecrow's like, yeah, if he won't come from a request, then we'll dig him out of his hole like a fox. But like, our sweet little ruler must maintain her dignity. Which, like, don't call her a sweet little ruler while you're talking
And then
about
say
dignity.
that you wanted to keep her dignity.
A sweet little baby ruler needs her dignity.
But Dorothy's like, yeah, she's like, fuck this. I'll beg him. Like, I'm not anyone's ruler. I've got plenty of dignity. I can do this and keep my dignity because I'm not trying
Yeah.
to die today.
Yeah.
And the hungry
Let's
tiger.
figure it out.
Yeah. The hungry tiger just hasn't spoken in a while. So he says, do call to the Gnome King. If he makes a hash out of you, I'll gladly eat you in the morning. And I'm like, okay. And no one reacts.
Thanks,
no one
hungry
responds to
tiger.
that. It's like your like annoying
I'm
uncle who like
real-
says something and then like
Yeah.
everyone kind of just like keeps going because
I'm
like
getting
they
sick
know.
of it. He's
Yeah.
really turning into my. He's
Yeah.
like this. He's this season's fucking Jack the Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, very that.
We
but-
get it. You have to eat, and you're not gonna. Stop talking
It
about
makes
it.
me wonder what he does eat though, because like he's so
He's
hungry.
gotta eat
but like
something
He's
if he's
gotta
pulling a
eat something.
chariot.
he demanded 30 pounds of tri-tip steak roast
And
or whatever the
potatoes.
fuck. Yeah,
Like,
and
he's
a peck.
he's clearly fine eating dead things. Like, I'm actually sick of eating him, bitch, because he obviously eats things that
Yeah.
are already dead.
But
all
like,
the
I
time.
guess
Just
he
do
doesn't
that every
kill them.
time.
do that. Eat a steak.
It's interesting.
God, that's what I do.
Yeah,
But-
I eat a steak.
Dorothy's like, hey, dignity, always dignity. And she's like, please, Mr. Gnome King, come and see us. And all the gnomes laugh at her again. But then a deep growl comes from within the mountain. And
You did a singing in the rain reference in the middle of that.
I did. Dignity.
Dignity, always dignity. Okay, it's a deep cut to the amazing 1940s musical Singing in the Rain featuring Debbie Reynolds.
Oh, I didn't even pick that up.
Well, some people have the skill. But yeah, there's this rumbling, the Nome King, or like a rumbling comes up, the gnomes like run away, a doorway opens in the cliffside, and a voice says, "Enter."
Enter.
And the Tin Woodman is just like, this is a trick. Like, is this a trick? Like, what the fuck do we do? But Ozma is like, okay, dude, we came here knowing that this was a huge risk. Like, we have to take some risks.
Remember, we brought an
need
army.
to get inside.
Like,
Yeah.
We knew there was danger.
Yeah, she's like, we brought 28 of our best generals or whatever. Plus, we have the lion, the tiger. Like, she's like, we have to take the risk and, go inside.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, they did end up like asking to come in, and then he let them in. That's
Yeah.
reasonable. They don't
Yeah.
know anything about him other than that he made a deal, which is apparently legal in the land of Ev.
Well, yeah.
And then now he let them in their house.
TikTok
His house.
totally defended the Nome King earlier, like when he was like, oh, well, I mean, it was a fair
Yeah.
trade, which I found really interesting. But also, TikTok's not emotional. He's methodical.
No, he's telling you what happened.
And he even says in this moment, like when they're like, is it a trick? He's like, look, the Nome King is honest and good natured, and they can trust him to do what's right. But like, I'm sorry. We're here because he did purchase people. So sorry, Andrew Tate TikTok, but like, that's not very honest to me.
Yikes. But
Yeah, like I'm sorry, but I have to say TikTok has been giving a lot of good advice on people.
Yeah.
But honestly, what is his judgment on people?
well,
Honestly-
so the thing is, something that I think is interesting is I thought, well, okay, Smith and Tinker made TikTok and they made the Iron Giant. He gave the Iron Giant, or they gave the Iron Giant to the Nome King. So they like those are good guys. Like they gave the Iron Giant to the Nome King, so maybe he's good. But they sold TikTok to the King of Ev, who sold his family into slavery and then killed himself. Like they are not good judges of character. They're businessmen.
And
so I'm like,
frankly,
okay, well, what can we expect
like,
from the Nome
we'll
King?
get to it, but like the Nome King is actually pretty reasonable. And,
Well, we will
like,
get to that.
I'm
Let's not
kind of-
spoil.
Okay. But yeah, so
Interesting.
Ozma and Dorothy, like, like in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when it's like, let's be friends, best friends, and they like take each other's hands.
Yes.
That's Ozma and Dorothy in this moment.
Aw.
And
They take hands.
they go into this cave and it's lighted with like gems in the walls. With
Yeah.
like lamps behind them.
It's pretty. It's like stained glass, but made out of rubies.
Okay.
But it's this dark hallway. So they're all just filing into the mountain, basically. And they're like going and going. It's not like a long time, but like they are walking down a corridor. They don't know where they're going. They're just following it. And then they get to this like opening, like an archway. And there's this huge cavern. It's a big dome-shaped cavern. It's like lit up. And in the center, there's this huge throne, roughly carved from a rock, like a boulder, with like gemstones all over it.
Yes.
It's fucking cute.
So
Hey,
Of
I want one in
course.
my room.
sitting upon it is the Gnome King, who you might not want in your room. But here's what he looks like.
Maybe.
So the Gnome King, he's a little fat man wearing like a gray-brown garment that matches the rocks around him. He has bushy hair and a long beard, and those are also rock-colored, as is his face. And he doesn't wear a crown, but he does wear a thick, like, jewel-studded belt around his fat little body. Like, L. Frank Baum needs you to know he's a little obese.
He's not obese, he's plump.
He's plump. But his
They don't-
features are kindly and good-humored.
And Dorothy whispers to Ozma, he looks just like Santa Claus, but in the wrong colors.
And the Gnome
And she's
King...
British.
Yeah,
Okay, let us
actually,
not
she-
forget, she has a written in
Yeah.
Southern dialect.
It's actually, he looks like Santa Claus in there. Sorry, I almost
Santa
did
Claus.
Cut it.
Got it.
But okay, so the Gnome King overhears Dorothy say this, and he laughs, and then he quotes "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," which was written 85 years before this book and written in New York City, USA. So I don't know why the Gnome King has been reading "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," but he's quite familiar.
But he knows that she means he has a red face and a round little belly that shakes like a bowl of jelly. That's the quote. And
Okay.
But they were all glad because they're like, oh, he seems kind of nice. Like,
all in all,
that's
like,
cool.
He's jolly. He's friendly. He offers him a place to
He
sit.
waves his
Okay.
hand. 2 stools appear, and he's like, go ahead, sit down. Like, tell me, like, what I can do to make you guys happy. Like, that's what he
welcoming.
says.
That's nice.
Yeah. And so everyone's like kind of getting comfy, and the Gnome King pulls out a little pipe and he's smoking. He pulls out from his pocket a glowing red coal that he puts in the pipe to light it, which I think is
Ooh,
just fucking
give
cool.
me a little
That's
piece
sick.
of
He's got like a
that.
little burning ember that
Yeah.
doesn't burn his flesh or clothes.
And Ozma, like, kind of, well, she doesn't go off, but she's very direct. She's just like, Your Majesty, I'm the ruler of the land of Oz, and I've come here to ask you to release the good Queen of Ev and her 10 children, who you have enchanted and hold as your prisoners.
Okay, and like
Which is a little rough.
it's right out of the gate.
You're not selling it.
You're not selling it.
Yeah,
Sell
it's
me
like
on
you're
it.
coming off
Yeah, yeah.
a little
Yeah,
harsh.
let's have a little
And-
conversation first before
Then-
you start demanding things from me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean that's totally like where his head is too, as we'll see. But like he's like, actually, Ozma, love you, girl. I haven't taken any prisoners. I purchased the royal family as slaves fair and
He
square.
literally says, "Oh, I didn't. They're not my prisoners. They're my slaves." It's just like, oh, Jesus.
Oh, well, that's ethical.
Okay.
And he was like, I bought them from the king. And
He
Ozma's
was the
like,
one who sold them. You should be mad at him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
if
yeah.
you have a problem, but
Too
Ozma's
bad
like,
he's dead.
yeah, we'll get there because she's like, that's wrong. Like that's still wrong for them to be slaves. And he's like, well, hey, it's all legal in the land of Ev, and also like the king can do no wrong. He sold them to me, and that's fine. I sold them to him for a long life.
Yeah.
And so here we are, the long life argument,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
here's the loophole.
Getting on
Or
technicalities.
deconstructing the technicality. So the Gnome King tells him that, like, even though Evaldo killed himself by jumping into the sea, like, the Gnome King made a fair trade. Like, he's allowed to keep the family. And, like, I want to posit to you what he posited to Ozma and Dorothy and see what you think. So the way he explains it is, like, okay, I traded Evaldo a long life for ownership of his family, and then Evaldo destroyed that life. So, like, I don't have to return the family, because if I gave you a pretty doll in exchange for a lock of your hair, and you took that doll and you smashed it to smithereens, you don't get to come back to me and say, I want my lock of hair, because I held up my end of the deal. I gave you a pretty doll.
I gave you
He's-
what?
So he gave Evaldo a long life, and Evaldo destroyed the long life that he gave him.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's just it, is the thing. Like, the argument made no sense from the beginning. It's a fun technicality, and if there was a magical contract, maybe, like, the magic would reverse. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like,
if we
the
had
fact
something in
is-
writing.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like, if there's a contract that was like, I give you a long life, and if you forfeit that
If that
life through
doesn't-
suicide, then I will release your family. But it's like,
Exactly.
no.
I mean,
And
a long life assumes that you're not
it's the ability
being-
to have a long life.
right. Like,
you
you're
know?
not. If someone comes into your room at night and blows your brains out, that I'm sorry. Like, I didn't give you a you don't get your brains blown
Yeah.
out spell.
It's
I gave
interesting.
you a long life spell.
Yeah. There's also so many ways to think of it, because like if Evaldo the king was murdered, would that, like, because that seems a little more like, well, okay, like he was murdered, it was taken from him, but even then it's theft. Do you have a warranty? If your car gets stolen, then what? You know.
Right. And there's no family to come claim the rebate.
Yeah, and
So-
who's
I-
going to claim the family? That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's
Also,
like-
it is a little like not even complicated, but like, well, it is complicated by the fact that he was traded a family, and like obviously we're not like thinking about this in 2022 or even in the context of fucking 1907, where like, yeah, people can't be sold. That's illegal.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that complicates the issue. But the logic at the base just doesn't make sense. And he
Yeah.
says that to them. He's like, that doesn't make sense. And they're like, okay, well, fuck, you're right. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and Ozma's like, okay, well, how about this? You're mistreating them. You're being cruel to them by keeping them as slaves. But yeah, so the Gnome King was like, yeah, I'm actually treating them even better than I would be if I kept them as actual, like, laboring slaves. And Ozma's like, yeah, well, that still sucks, and just let them go.
Well, they haven't consented to being ornaments.
That's true. I mean, they weren't consented to being sold by their father either, you know?
The thing is, Ozma she's pretty horrified though by the whole thing. She's like, like when he's like their ornaments, she's like, that is a terrible fate. They're gonna live as fucking a knickknack forever. Like that's no better. Please
That's
just
not
let
fair.
them go.
And
Like
also, like, Ev needs its rulers.
yeah, she's like, please restore the land of Ev. Please give them back a ruling
I'm
family.
really sick and tired
because the
of
king is
Langdevere
dead.
or
Yeah,
whatever her name
Langwedier.
is.
Langwedier doesn't even want to be there, you know?
And Ozma's like, I'll even replace your ornaments. Let them go from my fucking treasury or whatever the hell. Like, I'll give you new ornaments to replace the royal.
Yeah, if you're not
fucking
even using
family.
them for labor, why do you want them?
Exactly. Why does he? Well, but why does he want
Ozma's
them?
like,
it's fun.
I will give you 10, 20, 100, 1,000. Like, I will give you every beautiful ornament you want for your palace. But, like, let these human lives go home.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I don't really want to. What if I refuse? And Ozma's like, well, like, I am here with an army after all. So, like,
Well,
what do you think? So, in response to that, like, the Gnome King just, like, laughs his ass off. Like, do you have the description of that?
What I have is the Gnome King laughs them out of the room. That's what I have written down.
Interesting.
I don't have the like quote.
Yeah, it was like he laughs until he coughs
Yeah.
until he vomits. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
what
he
it
like
was, but
he had a whole
he
like
laughs his
Okay,
ass
chill.
off.
It's not that, but that would really piss me off, honestly.
Yeah. He's
I'm
like,
just
hey,
gonna say
like
that.
you're brave, which like is really cool, but like come here with me for a minute. Just
you
like
do
come here.
not know who you're fucking with.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to step over here to my balcony, bitch?
Let me show you something.
And he's like, here, let me like ferry you through this doorway.
It's just giving me like in Star Wars where they show the clone, like the clones
Armies.
and everything, the army, and he's
So,
just like, here, come look at this.
That's actually a really interesting parallel because he leads you through a doorway.
Oh my God.
What they see is the underground world that extends for miles in all directions. There are furnaces and forges with thousands of gnomes polishing gems and forging precious metals, and there are silver and gold doors lining the walls. With a whistle, the Gnome King the Gnome King whistles,
Yeah.
and all the doors open, and thousands of soldiers pour out.
That's very.
Yes, exactly. They're wearing steel armor with jewels in them. They line up. All the workers like flee. They don't know what's going on, but they're like displaced, and they're all just lined up with their swords, like fucking just ready. And interestingly, they're all wearing an electric light on their head, a lamp.
So, yeah, like they're all like Wyatt said, beautifully dressed, wearing lights on their heads. And the Gnome King is like, yeah, so this, like all of this beneath you, this is a small fraction of my entire army, just so you know. And no ruler in history or existence has ever opposed me. So, like, if you think that you and your 30-person army can take this on, by all means, please, like, do it.
And he actually says, no one on earth has ever opposed me, and no one ever will.
No one ever will.
No one ever will.
You know, he's a confident man.
He is. And then he whistles,
Oh my God, I
and the
think
whole
he's
army
honestly,
disappears.
Like, the Wicked Old Witch was a sick villain. Like, I will not lie. Like, greatest villains in history. Totally, like, the Wicked Witch of the West. But this guy, he's kind of cool because he's so cunning and like calm.
Well,
Yeah.
everything is
while
fine
saying
so
such
far.
horrible things.
I mean, other than if he wasn't
I
enslaving
mean, he's
11
giving
people,
like real villain. Like I
Yeah.
mean, literally what I
He's
thought. I'm
scary.
thinking like the fucking I'm thinking the Empire from Star Wars. Like just
very like
bad.
It's
like
very, like,
Sith.
lawful evil, where it's like I'm like following the rule. I'm not chaotic. I'm not like destroying things, but like I purchased this family. That's something I wanted to do. I did what I wanted to them, but like it's all legal. Like,
And if you want to come
And-
for me, I can show you
That's the
what
thing.
you'll have to deal with.
yeah,
You
and I
came-
don't want to fight you.
You came to my house. I let you inside. I'm showing you why not to fuck with me. And I'm probably still going to feed you and let you sleep here tonight.
Those are
you
the
know?
scarier ones. Those are the most scary.
terrifying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like you know, you don't know if you
Don't-
want to be mad or not.
Don't fuck with him.
Exactly.
But yeah, so then he whistles again, and all the soldiers go back through their doors, and all of the like furnace laborers go back to work.
Hate that.
And the Gnome King is like, all right, so you think about it. And like he goes and sits down.
Where's
and all-
Belina?
Beline, so in the photo, in like the illustration in the book, everyone actually has gone and joined Ozma on the balcony.
Okay.
The book doesn't say that they all went out there, but actually Wyatt has the picture for you there.
Yeah,
They all go out and join her out there, and so they all see this.
Wow.
And we'll post that on
That's
the
a lot of
Insta.
soldiers.
Yeah.
Also,
Um,
really quick, this is the Gnome King. Isn't he cute?
Oh my god.
So yeah, the Gnome King goes back and sits down. He's like, so like you decide. And Ozma's like, we'll be dead if we try to do anything. Like, I honestly don't know what to do in this situation. I've never been in this situation before. And the Hungry Tiger's like, why don't we ask him where the kitchen is? Waka waka. Like, because he's full
He's
hungry
there.
jokes.
He's still there. I forgot about him, so I'm glad we
Now,
know he's there.
This part is my favorite. The Cowardly Lion is like, how about this? How about I pounce on the motherfucking Gnome King and I rip him into fucking pieces? What does the Gnome King say?
Go for it, man.
He's like,
That's
the
really
Gnome King,
scary.
back to smoking his pipe. He's just like, try it. And so the lion actually does. He
Oh my
actually does
God.
try it.
Well, he jumps in the air. He like gets ready for a pounce. He pounces, but then he stops midair and gets set back right where he started.
So
And that's it.
magic?
We are
So we don't know
among
how.
some
We don't know how.
magical-ass beings.
But-
immediately, the Scarecrow is like, so this is some powerful magic up in here. Maybe we should just try and wheedle the slaves out of him.
Yeah, let's just like convince him to let them go. Like do some begging.
He's at
and
least willing to talk.
he is, and the Gnome King is like, yeah, that's the best idea you've had. Like, I'm a really kind-hearted guy. Like, I can't resist someone begging me for something. Like,
Yeah.
so just try like begging. Try to coax me.
Okay, what's funny though is that the Scarecrow says like, let's try to wheedle the slaves out of him, and then the Gnome King's like, oh, I don't have time for wheedling. Coax me. Those two words, I googled them, mean
Synonyms.
the exact same.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm
Although-
sure that's a joke.
Yeah.
Like,
It
Like he's just teasing.
he is teasing
Yeah.
them. There's a somewhat slight distinction, which might just be in my own mind, but I feel like wheedling is more of an annoying, like repetitive request, but coaxing is more like, come on, like, don't you want it? Like, you know, like coaxing is more inviting, where wheedling is more like pressuring.
see, when I
feel
thought
like.
wheedling, I thought more cunning, but I was thinking like weaseling.
That'll do
But
it.
wheedling and coaxing are actual like literal synonyms. The word coax is in the definition of wheedle.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I googled it earlier. But so he's like, coax me then, and Ozma's like, okay, bud, let's be best friends. Hey, I really want to liberate the queen and her children. Can you tell me how to do that?
Yeah, and he's
Show
like,
me a way.
he's like, oh, well, he was like, are you willing to risk yourselves to save them? And Ozma's like, yeah, we're all here. Like, we literally came here. Well, she's like, yes, of
He's
course.
the fucking Joker now. Okay, I'm switching over to DC. He's the Joker.
He just wants to watch the world burn.
No, he doesn't
but-
want chaos.
But he suggests a game. Wyatt, do you care to explain?
Oh, the Riddler.
Yes, it's very Riddler.
Did you watch the Robert Pattinson one?
That one's good.
Yeah, it was very good.
It's pretty good.
So Ozma says yes, like we're willing to risk it all, and he's like, okay then. And I actually have a long quote that I'll somewhat paraphrase, which
See,
is,
I didn't have the time. That's why my notes literally say, ask Wyatt to explain.
well, here we are.
There we go.
So the Gnome King says, I will make you this offer. And he basically just says, to Ozma, you're going to go alone, unattended into my palace, examine all the rooms carefully, and look for the 11 members of the royal family. They're ornaments, right? And he's like, I will give you like permission to touch 11 different objects. When you touch one you think is a family member, say the word Ev. And if any of them that you choose are a family member, they will transform to the family member and they can leave. And they will be instantly restored to their true form. It's great. He says,
It's giving
What's
like
the
Indiana
condition?
Jones,
So-
like fucking type of shit.
Oh, it's
I don't
harder.
know.
It's harder.
It is harder.
But yeah.
And he's like, so it's possible for you in this way to free all of them.
Yeah.
Ozma could go in, touch 11 things,
And get it
11
done,
numbers.
yeah.
And he says, oh, sorry, go ahead.
He says, like, if you're wrong, you can come out, and then I will send someone.
Everyone in the
Yeah.
party.
You can all take turns. You all have to go in one at a time, but all 40 of you can take turns going in and trying to guess which ones are which.
All 40 of them have 11 guesses, which
And
is like
how many
400
ornaments
guesses.
are there?
There's 11. There's just 11 in the
So-
whole palace, though.
So they have like 420 guesses.
Okay.
to
Well, how
find-
many ornaments are in the
Oh,
palace?
it's a room.
Oh.
It's a room full.
It's many rooms. It's not just one room.
Oh, it's rooms and
It's
rooms.
throughout the palace.
He
I see, I
keeps
see.
treasures.
Yeah.
So-
So even if in our house, which
It's
is
like
a-
11 out of fucking hundreds.
Yeah,
right.
Out of hundreds, but with 420 guesses, you're probably going to find at least half of them, right? So the big catch is this. If none of the 11 objects you touch proves to be the transformation of any of the royal family of Ev, then instead of freeing them, you yourself become enchanted and transformed into an article of bric-a-brac or an ornament. So everyone in their gang gets to take turns. Like all 40 of the Ozian army get to take turns going in, and they get 11 guesses to try and find them. Anyone who doesn't is going to turn into an ornament themselves. And this chapter ends with the Nome King saying, "This is only fair and just, and is the risk you declared you were willing to take." And that's where we end.
Ugh.
and that is
God.
the end of chapter 11, bankruptcy, or the Nome King. And Blake, what would you call that?
I actually totally forgot to name it, so let's go with bankruptcy.
All right.
Woo!
Thank you for listening to Oz Hour. Please join us next time when we continue with Chapter 12, The 11 Guesses. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on our Instagram at Oz Hour Podcast for the latest on everything Oz. Oz Hour, created and hosted by Blake Stone and Wyatt Swangham. Co-hosted by Hannah Aguirre. Audio production by Charlie Johnson. Theme music written and performed by Rudy Klobus. Cover art by Valentin Lucas.